A Frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast Captain Slug. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new episodes, to seek out new jokes and new references, to split infinitives that no one has split before. Captain Slug, Stardate 53. These are the continued voyages of myself, Eddie Edwards, and my friend and colleague, Mr. Mark Bench, as we trek our way through all of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Mark, how you been? What you been up to?
Yeah, I've been good, mate. Not a lot, to be honest. I started hosting a movie-based pub quiz.
Oh,
That's been fun. In a cinema.
Okay.
I don't think they'll hear this because they haven't advertised it, so everybody that's come in has been like, "Oh, okay, there's a pub quiz on. Yeah, so I'll do that. Great, it's about movies. I don't know much about movies. Oh, fantastic." So it's like I have real particular taste in pub quizzes. I think there's a real fine line between a pub quiz that's fun and a pub quiz that's just a guy trying to show off how much he knows about things.
Okay.
And the pub quiz
and you fall very much into the second category, I imagine.
You'd be surprised, right? I like to think that I'm because I want everyone to have a nice time, and I like a good sense of competition. Like the Super Bowl, that was a great game. And
good game, yeah.
I want, close knit fucking scores and all that. So these questions, I thought I'll make these pretty easy, but then it made me realise that what I think is easy and what people who don't watch movies chronically think is easy is quite far apart.
Yeah,
but they had a nice time, and that's really what counts.
Okay, I want to the next time I'm in Glasgow, I want to attend this pub quiz. Cause it sounds
it's a good laugh.
Because I'm up for it.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast that you might have some interest in. It's called the Cultaholic Classic Review, and they're going through old episodes of Monday Night Raw.
Right.
And they do a live commentary track for each of the pay-per-views. And this week we got up to King of the Ring 1996,
nice,
which is a pay-per-view that is not notable for any of the matches that happen, but is noticeable for what Stone Cold Steve Austin says after winning King of the Ring, which is
I'm gonna fuck Stephanie McMahon.
No, it's not that. It's when he says, you talk about your Psalms and your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your ass," and then Vince McMahon immediately builds another wing on his house. That's been my week has just been having that promo go around in my head, and I've had a lovely time.
Do you think it's the only time in actual history where a man's pupils turned into dollar signs and the clink clang sound of a till opening actually sounded?
I'm looking forward to watching the next episode. I want to watch the next episode of Raw on the WWE Network just to see how many people had Austin 3:16 signs immediately.
Yeah,
because there's a thing about it in Mick Foley's book, Have a Nice Day, which if you've ever read it, if you haven't read it, read it. It's a great book. But
my friend always recommends it.
He's talking a bit about it, about his, he had a smiley face t-shirt that had the Mankind mask on it. And he goes, when that first came out, there was a period where the audience would be about a third of the audience would be wearing that.
Yeah.
And about a third would be wearing one of the Rock's t-shirts. And about a third would be wearing a Stone Cold's t-shirt. And then after Austin 3:16 happened, he said that just shifted immediately to 90% of the audience wearing Austin t-shirts.
Do you know how it works? Because I'm always fascinated by things behind the scenes, which is why I generally do absolutely no research into the behind the scenes of these episodes that I'm supposed to be talking about. But what happens? Because obviously he just came up with that right off the top of his head. Austin presumably wrote that. So I always remember a really good interview with Adam Buxton, where I think he was the interviewer. I can't remember who the interviewee was, but they were talking about doing voiceovers for adverts. And Adam Buxton said, you have to be very careful. When they tell you to suggest things, don't suggest anything that's better than something that they've already written, because they won't pay you for that. So, did Steve Austin, did Vince immediately pull him inside and go, right, 15%, take it, you either take 15% now or you take nothing?
So the way I understand it is, like, built into your contract as a wrestler is you get your first of all, you're not an employee, you're considered a contractor.
Yeah.
But you get like there's a thing called a downside guarantee, which is like how much you get paid if they don't use you at all. And then there's like a per appearance fee, how much you get paid for being on pay-per-view. And then there is very specifically, there is like a merchandising cut. And normally having like a t-shirt ready to roll, if you've got something planned, like you're going to put the title on somebody and you're going to have a t-shirt for that, that's all ready to go. But if you're a good wrestling company or as an established wrestling company, you basically have a deal with a t-shirt printing company where you can get them to get something out for you en masse in like a day or two.
Right.
So, yeah. So basically, because apparently they used to get like this is again from Mick Foley's book, they used to get like a dot matrix printout with like line by line everything for everybody's merch like sales, and for most of like the top stars there's like 2 or 3 pages, and he says, but if you were going to collect your little printout and you were after Steve, you had to wait for them to get another box of dot matrix paper, because it's just like medium t-shirts, large t-shirts, just one fucking slogan on it, and it's
Jesus.
He still is like apparently I think he still is making like a couple of million a year on like his cut of the t-shirt sales for something he came up with. And he said it about Jake Roberts, who like nobody even remembers that it's him he was talking about. I love the idea of that, of being able to do so, because there's I know AEW, another wrestling promotion, their top merch seller is a guy called Danhausen, who has only wrestled like 4 matches on TV, but he's got like cool face paint and he talks funny, so everybody loves him. So he's their top merch seller, and they're just in the group where like anytime you say something, they're ready to roll. Like if you say something and it lands with the crowd, they're ready to get something out. So there's a tag team called The Acclaimed, and they have a thing where they do a hand gesture they call scissoring, where they both put out scissors and shove their hands together. And they ended up in a feud, in a faction with Billy Gunn's kids, who you may remember as Mr. Ass from WWE. So his children,
both of them,
got in it.
Are they just 2 cheeks of the same ass?
Well, they got nicknamed the Ass Boys, and as a result, because they were Billy Gunn's sons. And and then Billy Gunn got nicknamed by the crowd Daddy Ass. He then turned on his own children to be with The Acclaimed. The Acclaimed it built into their intro as they came to the ring the phrase "Scissor me, Daddy Ass." That ended up on a t-shirt. That ended up being AEW's biggest piece of merch that they ever made. And it's in bright pink lettering. Like there's no subtlety about it.
There's a guy who he's part of the Rick and Morty crew, right? Obviously Justin Roiland is in the bin, so I don't know where this leaves him. But he's called Ryan Ridley, and as far as we know, he had nothing to do with Justin Roiland's crimes.
Well, it'd be weird if he was had work colleagues helping out with his domestic abuse. But I just need you to drive a hammer around, quick.
But he came up with Justin Roiland. So Justin Roiland, from what I understand, I haven't really looked a lot into his background, but I think Justin Roiland had rich parents. I'm just going to say allegedly. He might listen to this. So I think he had rich parents, and that's kind of what kept him on the scene. But his pal, who he done a lot of podcasts with back in the day, his claim to fame is that he created the T-shirt that says, "I do my own stunts." And apparently he just makes so much money off this that he was able to just bum around LA for a couple of years until Rick and Morty got made, and then he got brought in. Now with what's coming out, presumably as a fucking go-between between Justin and Dan.
That's the dream, is just to come up with a T-shirt that's moderately funny, and then like have it worn by like Macaulay Culkin or Devon Sawyer, not somebody massively famous, but somebody who's got enough like hipster cred that your global T-shirt sales keep you out of having to do a real job for the rest of your life,
and having to battle like what do you call Urban Outfitters when they just steal it off you.
I love people like that. I love people who like come up with like one stupid idea that goes crazy, and that's it. They're like the person who invented the pet rock. Like fucking hats off to you, sir. Genius. I put a rock in a box. I've made it look like a pet. It's going to be the smash it gift of this Christmas for exactly 1 year, and then I'm going to take that money and I'm going to fuck off.
Speaking of people coming up with a crazy idea that really takes off, this week's episode of Star Trek, and just before we move on, just for the purposes of not doxing myself, all that stuff earlier that I said that I did, I don't do that.
Right. So this episode of Star Trek is... I feel that we've got to talk about there's two things. One, there is a very good technical episode of Star Trek where people try and solve a puzzle using their technical acumen, and it's a really good classic Star Trek in that mould. And also, Geordi LaForge does some deeply problematic behaviour involving essentially deep faking a prominent warp engineer. What are the ethics on this? Like is this just something that we have to accept happens in Star Trek? Is that if you exist, somebody has made a holodeck version of you to fuck?
Yeah, I think the longer I hesitate, the creepier you think I am. But I don't know, man, because I guess there is an out, isn't there? Like if Geordi ever meets her in real life, and
which he does,
right, and she's read the logs or whatever, right? I don't know, man. Maybe he can turn around and say, "Well, to be fair, I didn't make you to fuck. I made you to help me fix this engine," which you did. It just also turned out that you're pretty decent, and I wanted a piece of that, and I made you fall for me while we were saving the ship. If anything, this is your fault. I imagine that's what you'll say.
Yeah, I imagine Geordi says this is specifically. I assume he would call it a female and say it's her fault because if females would just have sex with Geordi, he wouldn't have to do things like this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad.
Right.
I was trying to work out like a modern day metaphor for this, and I was like, right, if you were good enough at art that you could draw really nice, realistic like drawings, and you decided then to draw pornographic images of your co-workers, right, that they never know about, that doesn't mean it's okay.
No, it's not
right?
good, is it? No, that's
yeah.
Yeah, there's no explaining that away. That's an HR meeting that you're not going to enjoy.
I think this is the thing. I think the problem is, right, Starfleet has aliens in it, so nobody could decide what human resources should be called, so they just don't have one, and therefore Geordi's allowed to do stuff like this. I think we should actually address what Geordi does. Right, he needs to get some more energy out of the warp core. So he goes to the holodeck, because they're running low on power, so Geordi immediately decides to fucking fire up the thing that must use tons of electricity.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like,
I read about this. The holodeck has a separate power source from the rest of the ship, so that they can immediately cut it off when it starts to murder them.
Okay, fair enough. So, but either way, he goes down. He makes this holographic thing, and it's like, oh, I can give you where the actual prototype of it being made. And it's, yeah, that's perfect. Back to basics. And then Geordi, who has learned nothing from his previous experience in the holodeck, carelessly words a request and creates life.
Yeah.
And Leah Brahms, I think, and he's like, it's just like a holographic, like, no personality thing. And then he says, like, oh, computer, can you load a personality that's a bit like what you think Leah Brahms might be like?
Yeah. Can you look at all her social media?
Yeah.
All of the comments she's put on under newspapers and sort of put that together into a person.
And for more of an example of why that doesn't give you a true reflection, just watch that Black Mirror episode with Hayley Atwell. But yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else you can say about it. It's just really weird, and it should be okay.
No. It should be... Yeah.
There should have to be a tick box in the Federation where you like get your fucking ID made, and it's like you have to opt in to having holodecks somewhere make a version of you.
Especially I think people like. I think by the time we get to Star Trek times, right, I imagine a lot of societal issues will have been solved or quenched. A lot of hatreds, a lot of isms will have been sort of put aside in the pursuit of greatness and the exploration of the unknown. However, I think one part of human nature that we're never going to get rid of is that people like to fuck beautiful people. And we need... And if you give us a technology where it's like you can literally recreate any beautiful person that you can imagine or who is real, and we won't fucking tell them. You have to... There has to be a thing of like there has to be a new system where when someone comes to any job where it's like there is a chance that this scenario might get replicated. You are hot. These are two unobjectionable facts. Do you want to tick the box that when this is inevitably, because this situation is definitely going to be replicated by a head engineer, right? And if you're at head engineer level, you're either a violent lunatic alcoholic like that guy on Deep Space Nine, or you're a lonely, boring incel. So do you want to tick the box that says, when this is inevitably replicated, I will appear as myself, but I will have the head of some kind of crocodile or a spider? So something that'll be really off-putting.
I'm going to throw this out there. This is one of the few times where the fact that the Federation doesn't have money is an issue. Because if this was like somebody... If you could make your holographic self available via your OnlyFans, right? That's a lot better. But there's no reason to... I'm not saying that pornography wouldn't exist in a cashless society, but what I'm saying is it wouldn't be as good.
I think it is incredible that... that us two straight white cis men have sat here, and rather than the solution to this issue just being find some way of doing consent, we're just like, no, the solution is make her ugly. That's the solution. Do you know what the solution is? See if we can have a setting where she's just covered head to toe in a sort of black robe.
Right.
That would be right. And just so that just her eyes are visible. I'm
gonna say this, right? Okay, the holodecks, in general undermine Star Trek quite a lot, because you're watching Deep Space Nine now, aren't you? Right? Quark, right, has the only holodeck in all of Star Trek that doesn't continuously try to murder people, because he's running it as a business.
Yeah.
Right? And the problem with that, you say like, oh yeah, make it consensual. Yeah, that's good in principle, but all it takes is one person walking into Quarks with a holographic image of a woman and just going, here is a stack of latinum. I want the holodeck for 4 hours. Like, you can't, once you get outside of Federation space, this goes to the dogs.
It honestly might be a problem as insurmountable as getting guns out of America. We're just going to have to form societies and what you call lobbying groups that will give off the benefits of a holodeck. Yes, occasionally we have to put up with some abnormalities, but
look, I've changed my mind on the gun debate in America, because if I've learned anything from the last week, it's that sufficiently motivated teenagers can kill somebody with a knife. Just
Jesus.
With a knife, and I imagine they beat it to death with a copy of Deathly Hallows. Anyway, but
This is
no,
a fucking
yeah.
complete list. Christ.
Do we want to talk about the actual Star Trek-y bit and not the deeply problematic Geordi made a holographic woman who's a real woman?
Yeah, so they find an old ship.
A Promelian battle cruiser, which I
Yeah.
wrote down just because I like the word Promelian. And Worf and Picard have a fucking Venn diagram overlap of their specific interests, because it is an archaeological site of a weapon of war.
Yeah. It's nice to see Worf and his dad finding someone in common, isn't it?
I have an unfortunate bit that we have to mention for our O'Brien watch this week.
O'Brien watch.
Which is that Miles O'Brien is a fucking creep. Right? All right, you don't need to suck up to the boss that hard, right? Riker saw right through what you were doing with your little ships in bottles. Miles O'Brien never made a ship in a bottle in his life as a kid.
No, Miles O'Brien has never sufficiently had an empty bottle in his hand long enough to even contemplate putting something else inside of it other than his own piss.
You put an empty bottle in Miles O'Brien's hand, and that gets thrown at the nearest Englishman.
Usually Data. Do you think Miles perceives Data as being English?
An emotionless robot who thinks he knows better than you, has a smug sense of superiority. Yeah. I've 100%. That's how Miles O'Brien.
And is higher up in the rank than you for no reason.
Also, what we don't talk about a lot on this podcast is between now and then, Ireland has gone through, of course, the space troubles, which is the brief period where Ireland was colonised by androids.
I thought the space troubles was just the pub crawl that Miles O'Brien went on for his stag do.
In Deep Space Nine, right?
He only does Deep Space 1 through 8 though, because even he knows not to shit when you eat.
Right, here's a thing, right? Deep Space Nine, Quarks is Quarks the only bar? I get it's the bar that's got everything, but Deep Space Nine's a big ring, and it just feels like it's a missed opportunity to do a pub crawl if there's only one pub.
Also,
you drink at Quarks, you do one lap of the station, then you drink at Quarks again.
where does Cisco drink? Do you know what I mean? Because he's not going there to sit down with Dax and have a pint and discuss the days. Because Quark will be listening. Does he just go back? Does he just go back to his own house?
I imagine there's there's got to be a separate I know there's a Klingon Ractagino stand that does coffee. Do they do blood wine? Is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. The logistics of getting properly fucked up in space have not been covered adequately by any Star Trek So, Strange New World, Season 2, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, exactly.
I want cadets getting wankered. I know how people get wankered in the Orville.
They just have booze.
Yeah, they just have booze.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to know exactly how, like, strong synthahol is compared to actual alcohol. Because they get drunk in lower decks, and lower decks is considered canon.
Yeah, it's having a crossover episode with Strange New Worlds next season.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Take that, everyone.
I don't know, man. I think it is kind of a genius marketing move. For like 30 minutes, the people at the head of Star Trek at the moment had the post-cum clarity to be like, should we take the two things that people actually like and put them together?
Yeah. And then have a moment of like going, do our voice actors look close enough to their animated forms that we could get away with this?
Yeah.
They were like, two of them do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm going to ask a question, right?
Uh-oh.
There's a one tiny scene in this episode which I think might be the most Star Trek scene that's ever existed, which is we get a brief shot of Data, an android, playing 3D chess against Wesley the boy genius whilst they're in an asteroid belt. That might be the most Star Trek thing I've ever seen.
Well, Guinan's cutting about just collecting glasses.
Oh,
surely she'd have a kid for that.
Right, completely unrelated to this. I found out this week there are other bars on the Enterprise.
Oh yeah?
So, yeah, apparently, I was following, somebody I follow on Twitter did a little thread about, apparently at some point there was a computer program released called Stage 7,
right,
which was basically, you could walk around the Enterprise based entirely on the schematics, and like they was like, nobody else has this, you can't get it for legal reasons, I have it still, so I'm just going to take some screenshots and put them up. And yeah, there's a 9 forward, which is just the bar that's immediately below the 10 forward.
That's why they never get any noise complaints.
Yeah. This entire section's zoned for leisure, so nobody can complain.
Yeah, it was there when you moved in. There's no getting around it. There's no matter how many petitions you give to Picard, we're not shutting 7 forward. That's the strip joint.
No, that's... see, I think that's I have a thing about this. Geordi specifically goes to holodeck 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's the work holodeck.
I think Laura mentioned this, actually. What are the other ones up to?
Yeah. Why does he go... Is 3 the one that's closest to engineering? Or is there a specific reason why you can't use 1 or 2? Also, it just turns off while he's in there because they're trying to save power. What if somebody's like halfway up a fucking rock climbing wall?
I guess you wouldn't fall that far.
Yeah.
Because I had a look at how the holodeck works recently, and the omnidirectional treadmill makes a lot more sense than it used to. Because basically the holodeck just puts a force field under you and moves the force field opposite to where you're going.
Yeah.
So if you're on a rock climbing wall, you probably don't get any higher than it would be, I imagine, for your leading leg to be behind your secondary leg. I imagine that, so he's probably fine.
Unless there's 2 of you. What if one of you's standing on the floor? Then you get... Because we've seen it. It goes up. It's at least 2 floors, 2 decks high.
Yeah.
So if you're up at the top...
I don't think you go up, though. I think the wall comes down to you.
How does that work if somebody else is in there standing on the ground, though?
Because it's just perspective.
Does it put a field, like, does it put a projection between the 2 of you that makes you think you're further apart?
Yes.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? This thing that we don't have.
The holodeck is the most frivolous piece of Star Trek kit, and yet it's the thing that I have the hardest time working out how it actually... Like, a warp drive, it's fantastical and ridiculous, but I get the basic physics of it. You can't go faster than light, so what if you bend space-time so you're not doing that? You're sort of skimming through the universe.
Yeah, you're taking a shortcut. Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. Whereas there's a lot of stuff going on with the holodeck. But then I guess there's a lot going on in the PS5.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Imagine that was all it was powered by. Geordi just opened one of the panels and there's just a PS5 in there.
Oh, man,
And he just ejects
ridiculous.
Hitman 3 and he's like, there's your problem.
Even at that point in the future, Enterprise, they can't get a PlayStation 5.
I don't know, man. Apparently you can get them now.
Oh.
I'm annoyed that the PSVR 2 is so expensive.
Yeah,
Because I'm one of the few people that actually quite likes VR.
and it also doesn't have Beat Saber.
I don't like Beat Saber. I'm not very good at it.
So
I just like
never
things that are
played-
challenging.
I've never played any PSVR. That's the only game I know that exists that looks like something that I might enjoy. So I was like, this thing I was never going to buy anyway. I'm definitely out now.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know? So did you hear the story about the Palmer Luckey? Palmer Luckey's the guy who invented the Oculus Rift, and he's invented that because his favorite TV show is Sword Art Online, which is a anime series where there's like an incredibly realistic world that you can live in, and it's way better than reality. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But of course, if it's got that classic, but if you die in the game, you die in real life. So Palmer Luckey declared the other day that he thinks he's halfway to creating the world of Sword Art Online because he's created a VR headset that can kill you.
I like that that's what they took away from it.
Yeah, I saw this reported alongside an Onion article, which was called "Finally, Technology Will Allow Us to Create the Torment Nexus" from the wonderful science fiction novel "Don't Create the Torment Nexus." But yeah, he put some explosives in a VR headset, and he thinks that's halfway to Sword Art Online, failing to. Like, making a headset that will kill you. I could, like, you could have just hired me to stand next to somebody in a VR headset with a hammer. That would have worked.
And,
well.
and if the only if the only way he can see of doing it is by putting explosives in the headset, in order to maintain the criteria of it being realistic and the way that you die in the game is the way that you die in real life, he'd have to make every single game about having a bomb on your head. And, like, it doesn't matter how. Like, you could create the world's perfectly rendered 3D virtual environment for us all to spend our lives in. But as soon as I walk through that, as soon as I do the tutorial, then I walk through the door, and it's like that scene from In Time where they're like, beep, alright, now the bomb is armed. Fucking be on your way. I'd be like, I think I'll just leave it. I think I'll just go back to Resident Evil 4.
The real problem is, as well, there's no point creating that game because there's already a game called Dynamite Headdy.
Yeah.
And if you can't use that name, what's the point?
Exactly. And I like to play games on easy mode because I'm a coward.
What's our smaller explosive?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
just gives you just gives you lasting brain damage. And then you can play the next game of use a spoon, but on a higher difficulty setting than you'd normally do. So.
How long do you think it'll be till we've got the old explosives in the brain?
Given the way Britain's been going over the last month or so, I'd be up for putting them in next week.
Because obviously everything's going to shit, right? Everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
And the minute someone can figure out a way to gamify that, I think is. Like, we're not gonna need, like, people to, like, we'll have enough people volunteering for the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
That we'll get a team together every year, and we'll enjoy it.
That's going to annoy me primarily because if you want to have mass televised blood sport, the original movie Death Race is just better and more fun. It's got a man called Mr. Frankenstein who's got a grenade for a hand.
Yeah.
I'd watch that over the Hunger Games. I don't want to see some fucking kid with a bow. Give me somebody who's got a machine gun mounted to a car. That's it's a way better sport.
That's what they should give them. That's the problem with the Hunger Games, is that they want these kids to murder each other in ways that they're not already experienced enough with. But every kid, you know, by the age of 13 has played some sort of game where you kill people with a car. So if you want the Hunger Games to be truly entertaining, what you need to do is find 12 working class children, put them in a big dome, and give them cars. Give them Vauxhall Corsas. And 25 minutes later, there'll be one of them left.
Look,
and they can get a week's food.
We all know that vehicular combat is the best use of vehicles in games. Like, you might think Gran Turismo is a good game, but it's not a patch on Twisted Metal, right? End of. And Twisted Metal would be a better thing. Yeah, because I don't want to watch NASCAR. And I don't want to watch F1. But if those F1 drivers could fire machine guns at each other, I'm in.
Do you think anybody, probably, I imagine it'd be like Worth and maybe Bev, right? Do you think they ever take excursions to the holodeck where they're like, turn on the special tennis program, right? And it's just like a regular game of tennis, but the ball is a live grenade. And just because Beverly likes to feel things every now and again, and she finds that danger is the best thing. It's what she enjoys the most. But it has to be tennis, so that when Picard inevitably comes through the arch, they can just call out a thing and it turns into just a regular ball.
I reckon that Bev uses the holodeck to... She fires up like a simulation of just patients she doesn't like, and she murders them. She just goes in and goes, holodeck, load program, shipment free.
Yeah.
And then she just goes in and goes, oh, what's that? Sorry, you didn't think my medical care was up to... and he's dead.
Oh.
So, we should talk about the episode a bit.
They found little videos, I guess, of those of the old people. That must have been quite exciting.
Yeah, it's a 1,000-year-old ship. So, like as Picard says, it's like that we just invented the typewriter on Earth when this was like made, and that's cool. But you know, and it can't. And to be fair, it turns out it's that classic Star Trek thing of, well, if we. Also, I'm going to throw this out. So, one of the things that runs through this episode is like, they at the end of the episode, they're like, if we could use the computer has to have complete control of the ship, or we can do it by eye, and it's 50-50. And Picard decides he's going to do it himself.
Yeah,
by eye. And the point is, well, human beings don't trust computers. Oh, progress! You're on a warp-powered spaceship.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a bit in a moment at the beginning of this where they pick up the distress call from the ship, and Riker that says it's been 1,000 years since the entire race died out. There's no way there could still be survivors, and I was just like, "Bitch, you're in Star Trek." Stuff like this happens literally every week.
Yeah,
yeah, could easily just go over there and go, "Oh, there's a guy in a fridge." Like, who knows? You don't know what they had. Picard gets to do That Belongs in a Museum, which I very much liked on the week that an Indiana Jones trailer has dropped.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited. Doing a lot of de-aging in it.
There's Nazis in this one, which, as we know, makes for the best Indiana Jones movies. That's why Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull were the worst two Indiana Jones films.
So, going back to Picard driving, taking over the helm during an extremely tense and important moment from the child who normally drives.
Yeah, what's next to the android and Riker, who is canonically the best pilot on the Enterprise. Just saying.
Is he?
Yeah. It comes up in some later episodes. It comes up in that one with there were 4 lights.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I always thought Picard was a pretty mint pilot.
He
came up with a Picard maneuver, didn't he?
I think he did that more as a captain. He sort of said, we should do this, and then somebody else did the hard work, and then Picard took all the credit, you know, like a captain does.
Do you think that's what he wants? Do you think he wants the credit?
Yeah. He's like, either they're going to tell stories about how great I was, or we all die and nobody knows it was me.
Genius.
Because I'm going to say, one of the things that doesn't get brought up in this episode is that they could, they could radio for help. Because the ship can't move, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, like, they go to move and then there's there's something sapping their energy and using it to bathe them in radiation. But why can't they just, call another ship to, sit outside of where they are and just tractor beam them out?
I think they sort of... I think they addressed that, though, didn't they? Because they said that we don't have enough time. We only have, 3 hours.
Yeah, just enough time for Geordi to...
get his rocks off.
Do something... Yeah.
You would, though, wouldn't you? If you were the head engineer, and you were in a situation where it was the only way to escape this is to make top of the line engines even better by methods. Well, I guess that's up to you, isn't it, Geordi? It's a good thing you've got that visor so no one can see how fucking sweating you are. You'd be like, yeah, no worries, man. I'm just going to pop off to the holodeck to see if I can figure this out for 3 hours. Don't disturb me. I'll be busy.
His original plan was just to fire up the program that is just being in a dark cupboard and crying.
Geordi, program 3.
I was going to say, when they beam over to the ship originally, it's the old derelict ship, and there's the dead aliens in their seats. I thought it was very Aliens.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then they found the audio logs of the original captain, which made me think, oh, it isn't Aliens, it's Dead Space. Because it's the most computer gamey thing ever. We've been finding audio logs, but then this was made at a point before games with audio logs were fairly common. So they find one on the bridge, and then Data just finds all the rest of them in a cupboard rather than being spread out in a way that progresses the story. Also, can I say, the whole Picard taking the bridge, taking the helm, and he's like, oh, I don't trust computers. More good old human instincts. That's what we're going to rely on.
Yeah.
He's sat next to Data when he says that.
Yeah, exactly. Who could have done it 100 times better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
this Picard fellow, I'm starting to think he might not be up to the job.
I've got a sneaking suspicion that Picard doesn't get enough credit for being as lucky as he is.
Yeah.
Picard exists down the unlikely branch of a lot of fucking timelines, right? there are a lot of versions of Picard that have gotten the entire crew killed.
Yeah. I mean, surely that's everyone though. Do they they could, because obviously we have the Kobayashi Maru for the reason that you have to learn a no-win scenario. But there must be beings in Star Trek that can see all future possibilities. And your final interview
this season.
Yeah, your final interview as a captain is just to sit in front of him and they go, how mental is this guy? Is this guy that's how they get admirals. If you're just not mental enough and you just get everyone killed all the time but for really boring reasons, you don't get to be a captain. But if the reason that you get everyone killed is your ability to think so far outside of the box that you can't even perceive the box, well done, my friend. Here's your stripes.
Picard didn't even have that interview. He got out of the hospital from having his heart replaced after he got stabbed. Yeah. and there was this little fucking letter away from him saying, "You've been promoted to captain. Please report to the Stargazer."
Oh, what a fucking ridiculous life. I genuinely don't really have anything else for this episode. I mean, looking through the making of, but there's nothing particularly. I think this is the first episode made by a woman, directed by a woman.
Oh, okay.
Good
Nice.
job.
I've just got in my notes. Troy looks nice because she had a nice dress on.
Yes, then got no lines, or maybe one line.
Yeah, she was in a good. She was as an empath who could pick up on emotions. This was the first time she got to like pick up on Picard's unbridled, archaeology boner. She was like, "This is just nice. It's been a pleasant day, Captain.
It's nice
Normally
to see
you're
this side
fucking
of you."
miserable."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Geordi's up there crying.
Yeah. I think they could have used a bit more Worf in this episode. I think like having like Worf be the person who can go, well, it's a battle cruiser. Like him be the one who could work out what the booby trap was to some degree. Instead they just find it like on the logs, don't they?
I think we are getting to the point though where they're kind of rounding out the characters a little bit more, and because of that their own specific skills tend to be coming into play.
Yeah.
Where like we understand them as a crew a little bit better, like how they work, rather than just what are their jobs, this is the person who does that job. We realise, oh, this is a Riker thing, or this is a Worf thing, or
Yeah.
is something broken, get Miles O'Brien in, wake him up.
Wake him up. We need somebody to sit next to this cello.
Get him off the floor of 5 forward, because he's banned from 6
He's been working his way down from 10. Started on 10. He's down at 5.
1 forward is just a shed that he built himself.
0 forward is just a shuttle that he's got outside that he hasn't told anyone about. He beams himself over to it.
And he does that thing when he opens the door and all the empty bottles fall out. Picard's like, these don't even have doors. How did you even make that happen?
There must be like somewhere on board like the Enterprise that's like crawl space, like somewhere that isn't actually accessible from inside.
Yeah.
It's like he has to beam himself into just this little pocket that's like just like the size of a small room, and he's filled it with booze. Because
we already know that synthahol isn't as good as alcohol, so really what that tells me is that if you are an alcoholic, you're just going to need a lot more of it.
So I've got a question about this.
I think he's got a vent. I think there's a fake vent on the Enterprise that has exactly enough room in it for him to sit up in a chair next to a replicator.
I've got a question.
And a tricolour hanging up behind them.
So, here's a question about Synthahol. Is Synthahol like a Federation-wide thing? Or is it just specifically on starships? Were they like, right, here's the deal. We need to have our alcohol be reversible with a hypo spray in case our chief engineer gets pissed.
Yeah.
Or was it like a prescriptive whole society, well, we're just not doing this anymore? Like, one day the Starfleet president got pissed and took a swing at Romulan, and they were like, okay, we're just going to stop this now.
Yeah, because I guess there is that thing in First Contact where the Enterprise crew are surprised to find out that Zefram Cochrane is a violent alcoholic. And you'd think that would be the story that would be told about him.
And I imagine Zefram Cochrane's a lot like Churchill. It doesn't get sewn enough in the show, but anytime you bring him up, there's always someone who's like, well, actually, well, a lot of people don't talk about Zefram Cochrane's role in the genocides of World War III.
Yeah. Use the N-word a lot.
It's like I feel like Zefram Cochrane. There's a Studio Ghibli movie about and it's a weird one because it's based on like
a weird Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh no,
come on now.
But weird for different reasons. Let me explain. It's sort of it's historically accurate, like it's based on a real person,
right?
And it's basically there's a Japanese, a well-renowned Japanese aeronautical engineer who helped design a bunch of like Japanese planes.
Yeah,
and he made like great leaps forward in aviation, and is widely considered to be a bit of a genius. But equally, the planes he was building were used to do Pearl Harbor, right? So it's kind of a mixed bag on that front, and I imagine that's a bit like, I can't imagine somebody who had the engineering skills to make a warp core managed to go through the entirety of 2 major Earth-wide wars without committing at least one genocide.
I mean, you kind of have to think that for everything, right? Because, like, the same way that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, there is no ethical creation in utopianism. Because even the guy who designed the visor that allows Geordi to see has definitely allowed some peeping Tom to back up his hobby after he got blinded in an accident. Maybe he did get put off. Maybe he didn't find her stunt double as attractive.
Look,
but
it's a bold stance to take as a podcast, but I think we are officially saying some people do deserve to be blind. And once you've invented a cure for blindness, you can't really say, oh, okay, well, you've invented a cure for blindness. We live in a society where all medicine is free, but we're going to do this on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Please sit down and tell us over the next half an hour why you deserve eyes.
Yeah. Any ethics meeting for the human testing, when the guys present the visor and all the good that it's going to do to humanity, one of the doctors just sits back and folds his arms and went, what if Hitler had been blind?
Yeah, somebody's gonna be there going,
Hard
like,
to be racist when you can't see.
Could somebody use this? Are you gonna guarantee me that nobody is gonna use this visor to read Mein Kampf? We can't say. You go. Whereas now at the moment we know that all blind people have never read Mein Kampf because it's illegal to produce Mein Kampf in Braille. Well, it's not illegal, but it's just against the wishes of the author.
All holodecks come with an inbuilt copy of an interactive version of Mein Kampf. We didn't put it in there. It's just some sort of byproduct of the programming that we can't seem to stop.
Yeah, it's essentially the AI at the heart of the holodeck. For some reason, always downloads that. It's one of a lot of true crime podcasts. A lot of stuff about Dharma. Anyway, I'm sure it's fine. Enjoy.
It's my rule number 2 of the holodeck is you can never use the expression "damn her," because the holodeck might hear you wrong and load up something you do not want to see. But yeah, Geordi's a creepy incel. Yeah, big time.
And do you know what's even worse?
But you know what?
This,
he saved the day, and that's what matters.
Do you know what's even worse about Geordi being a creepy incel? Is that the writers don't think it's a problem, to the point where I know that it's not a problem, because in series 3 of Picard, there is a character being played by Mika Burton, LeVar Burton's daughter. She is playing Geordi's daughter, and her mother is Leah Brahms.
Oh well, that was nice.
Yeah.
Locked it there, Geordi, didn't you?
So if you fancy somebody at work, draw a super realistic picture of them naked, do what you want with it, and maybe you'll end up together. That's what Star Trek teaches us.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
All right, well.
Episode.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. It's a really good episode.
It is a good episode. You'll enjoy it.
Really good.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. It's deeply problematic though. But
big time. Yep, absolutely.
I thought we were past deeply problematic episodes of Star Trek. Gene's not dead yet. This must be the last one. It was like what? They've gone. He just came in his wheelchair. Like last thing on a gas mask. They wheeled him in one last go around the studio. He saw this script and went, "What if?"
No, he did that. He had the Captain Pike buttons that put on the wee light, and it just came up in Morse code. And they didn't even need to read Morse code. They could just see how fast he was pressing the button, and they knew exactly what they had to implement into the script.
Yeah, beep, 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 beep. It's like a.
What does that mean? It means either heart attack or more tits. To be honest, 9 times out of 10, it's been more tits.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a good episode.
Yeah,
problematic but good. I'm gonna get. That's gonna be a bit of merch. If you want a problematic but good T-shirt, I will have those up.
Excellent. Keep my name off that. Thank you. Until it makes money, and then put it back on.
Okay.
Well, that was that.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.